deep in an underground secret Pacific Island lair, Pop Culture Minefield presents Saturday Morning Funtime. This is the Comic Relief Crusader telling you to get your morning cereal ready, because here we go.
Hello, everyone. Good Saturday morning. Wow. Well, here we are with another fun-filled episode of Saturday Morning Funtime.
Yes, indeed. Good morning for those who are in the morning.
I think that's just Hawaii at this point.
Well, first, let me start off by with the just saying rest in peace or in party to the great Jimmy Buffett.
Yep.
That's definitely someone who, wow, you can just feel how everything feels a little different without him around now. So, I got to say, in college, I learned a lot about Jimmy Buffett, learned to truly appreciate his music. And, yeah, just that's definitely someone who was a life well lived and a lot of fun. Life of the party.
Yep. He pretty much created an entire culture around that beach lifestyle.
Yeah. Yeah, it made him a multi-millionaire. Anyway, just
we also lost Jack Sonny a few days ago too.
Really? Wow.
The guitarist for the guitarist not named Mark Knopfler in Dire Straits.
Yeah. I remember. Oh, wow. This has just been a brutal year, given a lot of the people in the community of the arts that have been lost. So, wow. And just since July, at least, the number of people.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we're at that age that all the people we grew up watching and admiring are keeling over.
Yeah, I prefer not to think of it that way, but thank you.
No.
How's everybody in chat? Let's check everyone in chat. Socks Bulletin. Woo-woo. Penny. How's it going, Penny? Anima Confusa. Fletcher Williams. He Sucks at Games channel. Slasher Fred. Lord Thoth. Yes. Yes.
All hail Lord Thoth.
I know. Doing all. It's good. It's good. I think we have a good show for everyone today. Something that is something that I think a lot of us don't really ask too many questions about, even though a lot of what we've enjoyed is mainly been derived from the work of the people who get into this. So, yeah. It's a good idea. This one comes directly from Dust Wolfen. I have to give him all credit for coming up with this one. So,
well, needed a subject. That's the first thing that popped into my head.
Good idea, my friend. Good idea. So today we will be discussing special effects for the CGI era. Okay, and yes, to a lot of you younger folks, there were special effects before CGI.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to talk about today. I think it's important to remember this and to talk about it. And yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. One last thing before we jump to the main topic. September 2nd is not only the day that was picked to premiere the $1 billion mistake, but it also happens to be the day that Tolkien himself passed away.
Yep.
Which, when you think about it,
it was an insult to Tolkien that they premiered that piece of crap on his death day.
Actually, it seems very appropriate.
Yeah, that's one way of looking at it.
The worst thing ever happens to premiere on that day. So, there are quite a few things.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm looking right at my notes. Oh.
Well, when we get into it, our title's a bit of a misnomer.
Is it now?
Yeah, it's actually before special effects became commonplace. Because the very first special effect was in Vertigo in 1958. The very first CGI.
Oh.
Yep.
Care to explain? Because I had understood that it was on the Wrath of Khan.
No, it used 2D animation, 2D computer animation for patterns.
Oh. Didn't know that. That's why I like to hang out with you. Every time I'm with any of you, I end my day being a little bit smarter than when I began.
Well, we hope to have that effect on everyone, but no, I messed up. My fault. I was originally going to start off with a little bit of news before we got into the main topic.
Oh, okay.
Because,
so we can do that.
I was an idiot, I'm an idiot being kept up by these incredible guys that I have with me. These two really, really smart guys who get to basically work real hard at making sure that I don't make myself look as bad as I normally do. But
get out of here. You never look bad.
Well, thank you for the power of your belief. Anyway,
hey, Keely Chow.
Keely Chow. Hey, Keely Chow. And nothing.
Yep. Specifically, if you want to know what was CGI in Vertigo, it was actually the opening credits.
Mm-hmm.
The swirl was all done by computer.
Oh. Okay.
He used a World War II targeting computer to create the film's opening titles.
Yes,
Well,
that
spiral effect. Yeah.
Yeah, even I didn't know that. So
well,
I knew that was the first CGI, but I didn't know how he did it. That targeting computer thing's new to me.
Well, it's like the whole.
It seems a little overkilling.
Boom, boom.
Well, I mean, it's like what was the first CGI character that was actually used without the audience knowing in a movie?
Okay, that one's a little harder to peg down.
Martin, would you like to venture a guess?
No.
I will tell you this. It was a lead character.
It's not making it any easy.
Yeah, that's
It was Batman and Batman Forever.
that was the first.
What?
Yeah,
That was the first
The
time
se-
that they used it and nobody noticed.
and nobody noticed. What it is the scene where Batman, played by Val Kilmer, is fighting the Riddler's goons when he unveils his brain machine, the brain box. And I'm sorry, it's Two-Face's goons. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And Two-Face and his goons make their way to the roof. Batman follows them to the roof. The goons jump off and slide their way down. And so Batman decides to follow them, right? That entire segment where Batman jumps off the roof and the camera does this really crazy pan around, that's all CGI.
No, I didn't know that.
There's also another popular, now classic, comic book movie that used an all CGI character and nobody really noticed. And that was the first X-Men film. The scene where Wolverine breaks free in the third act in the Statue of Liberty. And he's going to go up against Magneto, and he makes his way through the top of the Statue of Liberty. He's jumps up there. He's nearly blasted off and is able to save himself from falling by using his claws, and ends up cutting off one of the pieces of the Liberty's
spikes.
Yeah, that's CGI.
Well, not entirely. It was composite.
Yeah,
I think
it was CGI. They used CGI to replace him in that effect, to replace him temporarily with a full CGI character, and then back to him.
Okay,
Because that's how they were able to get. Yeah, that's how they were able to get the shot.
Dick Tracy.
So there you go.
What do you mean, Slasher Fred?
Well, while the first fully computer-generated characters appeared in Sherlock Holmes in Young Sherlock Holmes in 1985.
Yes.
The first one to have a major
use.
role was Jar Jar Binks.
Yes. Yes. These are obvious uses.
Yeah.
What I was talking about is the stuff that was hidden on purpose.
Oh, okay. Well,
Testing.
I was thinking that where there wasn't an actual actor there when it was just CGI. Well, except for the motion capture. I don't really count that. That's like rotoscoping. But not really like rotoscoping. It's in the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you need the mocap.
Yeah, you do need the mocap. Yeah, but there's not. That character is not physically present on set. Is my point. So Jar Jar Binks was the first one that they were a major character in a film.
Cool.
But Ahmed was there.
Slasher Fred, Tron was well before that. Well, a few years anyway. And I agree with Sox Bulletin. I'm always gonna vote for more Harryhausen.
No,
well,
even before Tron, I said,
yeah,
the imagery used on Wrath of Khan was on always to display monitors and displays and things like that.
Wrath of Khan and Tron came out the same year.
Nice. So drawn. Oh, but yes, there are some scenes are uh, computer animated, and others are um, traditional animated,
Yeah,
made
yeah.
made to look like computer.
But anyway, we're getting
Uh,
into weeds. We're
yeah, yeah,
supposed
yeah.
to be talking about special effects before all that, before the computers got heavily involved.
hmm So let's start out first and foremost with really the person who pretty much, in my opinion, started it all. Okay, French illusionist, actor, and film director Joe Millet. For as far as him and his films were concerned, he really was the man who made everything else possible in film. Adventure movies, science fiction films, fantasy films, he made it all possible. And his films really took audiences by storm. They took them to places he was able to take them to places where they had never been before. And I think a lot of people probably by now has seen his movie A Trip to the Moon.
Yes, I own it. In point in fact,
There you go.
how could I not? To I'm a very Julius Verne fan.
It's yeah, true. I mean, you had growing up back then, one would have to be a Jules Verne fan. Anyway, he was also the bane of Edison's existence, because Mr. Edison, Tommy, basically wanted to not only invent something like film, but he wanted to corner the entire market on everything connected to it. He wanted to own everything so that he became the one-stop shop for everything any filmmaker would need. Millier didn't really cater to that and found success as a director outside of Edison's influence, which, caused him much consternation. Hope it hurt too. Anyway.
Oh, we have a visitor.
Uh-oh.
Good morning, Chief.
Hello, Chief.
Sorry, I had to go get a refill.
Oh, it's all good. Andy Morrow. Andy.
And I'm wearing the shirt that I told you about.
Oh,
The animated turtles.
Hollywood Turtles.
Not the any current or recent incarnations.
well, yeah. Because I was going to say the TMNT, the first animated movie. That movie is awesome. I really liked it. But
Yeah,
I mean, you must be talking about this recent live action that were at best.
Yeah. But no, this was back the original 80s Turtles.
Oh yeah.
It's 89, I think.
Mm-hmm. It's the Turtles movie from Jim Henson.
Yes. I was talking about the live action, right? The first live action.
Yeah. I thought that's what we were talking about. I'm sorry.
Believe it or not, that movie was my introduction to Ninja Turtles.
It was for a lot of people. The Saturday morning animated cartoon and the film from Henson, for a lot of people, was their introduction to the Turtles.
I was wrong. It's 87, not 89.
Then,
Sorry.
ooh, that series started airing in Venezuela like in the 90s or in 1990 or 91, one of those years.
It ran from 87 to 96 for 10 seasons. And that's why it's superior to anything released since. Well, not because of that, because it was the original.
Well, no.
Oh,
I'm glad you said sense, because Super
Yeah.
Friends.
Well, I'm talking about for Turtles alone.
Yeah.
and the Turtles are that movie was an excellent example of makeup and
Oh,
rubber
yeah.
suits. That was incredible, and the guys on those suits being able to make all those movements with so much on their bodies. That always impressed me. Have impressed me. Yes. So
And I've managed to disrail the conversation yet again.
no. We talk about prosthetics and all that is part of the non CGI of pre CGI.
Yeah. Practical effects.
Yes. Oh man, do you remember that first time when one sees the Kraken getting out of the water? Ah,
that is an amazing effect.
The
Uh,
skeletons in Jason and the Argonauts.
But if we're gonna keep going down this road, let's try to keep it kind of also specific to the time periods and the order that things kind of happened.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I think the next thing that we should go to then, after Georges Méliès, is the film Metropolis by Fritz Lang.
Yeah.
Much of what was seen in that were just built on some of the effects and ideas that Méliès had, and done better by German filmmakers. Let me just say this. This, in my opinion, is probably one of the most influential films in the history of movies.
Yeah.
If you've never seen Metropolis, you should take some time out after you enjoy our show today and watch it.
It's not that long.
no.
But it is a silent film.
Yeah.
And but I mean, wow. And if you could find the near fully restored version of the movie, I personally think that makes a little bit more of a difference.
Yeah.
I keep expecting someone to eventually bring about their own interpretation of this, because it's based on a book, is really what it is. Thea von Harbo, who wrote a novel in 1925 called Metropolis.
Yeah.
And the movie was released 2 years later. And that book had some stuff in there that, as far as we know, I mean, it looks like Fritz Lang tried to interpret the book, but so much stuff was cut out of the film after its original premiere that over the years, a lot of that cut footage was lost.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah,
it's
I read
taken decades.
I read the
Oh, go
book
ahead,
years
go ahead.
ago.
Me too. Man, that's another
So-
thing we have in common.
Yeah. Well, classic sci-fi. You got to read it.
Yeah, classic science fiction, because
Yeah.
what I call sci-fi is Hollywood's interpretation versus science fiction as a genre. And that particular book was really meant to talk about many of the things that were going on at that time. Science fiction at that time period, in the 1920s, 1930s, really did do a lot of talking about current politics and the social norms and other things. Something that the people behind K-Trek don't understand because they don't read any of it. It's the reason why they're so bad at it. Because if more people that actually wrote K-Trek.
Well,
they don't need to read. They just write about their lived experiences.
Not to get sidetracked into Star Trek, because all roads lead to Star Trek, according to Kingsport Cal. Metropolis. There was a musical theater version of Metropolis. There was. It was announced in 2016, but Apple TV's going forward with it. And the last thing, it's the WGA strike killed it.
Mm-hmm.
But they were doing a series. And there's also from 2001, there's the manga and anime version of it.
Just before all of that came out, though, before the manga and anime version, DC Comics did a version where Superman is in Metropolis, that Metropolis, and it's wow, it's very well done. But this film helped to inspire so many people. But its biggest inspiration is the movie Blade Runner. Blade Runner was inspired by Metropolis. And that's, I think, according to many of the people that worked on the film.
Yeah.
In some ways, you could say Blade Runner, the film version, it's kind of like a modern take on that.
Yeah.
I'd still like to see some. Oh, go ahead.
You could make the argument that Metropolis was actually proto-cyberpunk.
Yes.
It covered a lot of the same themes that cyberpunk does, but it wasn't as fully developed as cyberpunk is today as its own genre.
Yeah. Again, the only thing that I can think that is lacking is the cybernetic implants for the population, because the rest is there. You have the corrupt government, the corrupt corporation, the manipulation of the masses.
Yeah, the dystopian nature of society,
which fits right in with K-Trek. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I let that slip? I didn't mean that. I'm sorry.
Oh my.
Anyway,
it's true.
Okay.
Hold on. Wait. We have some of the chat here.
Yep.
Okay. Slasher Fred says he loved the iconic theme song.
He's talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, wow. Patrick Jordan, he says, in 1987, I was patrolling the streets of Hollywood, keeping the good citizens safe. And we thank you, Chief. We do. Wow. You and Gene Roddenberry. Let's see. Here we go. Slasher Fred says, if you guys ever see Madonna's music video, Express Yourself, that video pays homage to Metropolis. Yep. Right after Queen had put out Radio Gaga.
Radio Gaga.
Motorhead on their Overkill album has a song called Metropolis, which is inspired by the movie.
Yep.
Same thing with Kraftwerk. They have a song called Man Machine, which was, or an album called Man Machine, which has a song called Metropolis, which I don't quite remember. There's a few bands that have songs that are either directly referencing Metropolis or inspired by Metropolis.
Oh, hold on. Look who we have here, ladies and gentlemen. We proudly present our good friend, our buddy,
Baron.
Hey, Baron.
Hey.
Hey, everybody. How you all doing today?
Doing good. It's
Good.
been a while since you've been
How are
on
you?
here.
I'm doing a lot better. I'll tell you, it's been a long story for these long few months, but things are starting to wind down.
In a good way,
I hope. Yeah, in a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm really hoping to. Das Wolf is not looking like me anymore. Well,
No.
what is this? I thought he was my biggest fan, and it kind of hurts.
I just had to make some changes.
Okay. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. Anybody want an orange cat, by the way? My daughter moved back, and she brought her cat, El Diablo Gato, also known as Obi Fluff Kenobi, and he's an asshole.
Technically,
Most cats are.
really. Yeah, I mean that's part of their reason.
Well, yeah, but there's levels of asshole with the cat. He's on a higher level of asshole. I mean,
Oh my goodness.
yeah. Oh well. One of these days, honestly, I'll pay you to take them. I'll put them in a box, and this will be optional if you want me to put, poke little holes in it for air or not. It all depends. I don't care. We can have Schrodinger's cat. Make a good experiment that way.
I'm sure John would take very good care of the cat.
I'm sure.
I can't have pets in my building. Sorry.
What?
What?
Otherwise, I would have a cat already, and probably a dog for company.
Yep.
You mean for entertainment purposes? Because that's really, the purpose of the dog.
Yeah. No.
At least that's the way the cat would look at it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm a dog. Gotta love me. I'm a dog. Yeah.
So, have you been following what we've been doing on the show so far?
No, actually, I'm coming in rather late, but I see on the bottom here you're talking about special effects before the CGI era. Is that true? Is that correct?
Yes. We're discussing Metropolis right now.
Oh, what a great movie that was. Great movie.
Right. That's one of those films that just seems to continue to inspire whole new generations. And it's just a beautiful concept in film. And when you get into how that film was made,
yeah,
people got to go ahead.
Oh, no problem. I was just trying to say hi, the Lord Thoth and Penny. But yeah, if you think about that film being made in the middle of the hard economic times that Germany was going through at that time. And you hear the budget, and today we go, that's nothing. This wasn't a time when Germany was basically their economy was so bad, people were getting paid on the hour because you don't know where the right mark was going to be.
Yep.
And
also, this is between World War I and World War II. People keep forgetting as to when this movie came out. I mean,
1929, 23, something like that. Yeah,
29.
1927.
Was it 27? Okay.
Oh, we're all over the place. That's why we have teeth here. Think about in a couple of years, that's going to be 100 freaking years old.
Yeah.
Yep. It's just amazing.
Mhm.
And I was wrong. The last time I watched it was in the 80s. And I said it wasn't very long. The fully restored Metropolis is 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Yep.
She is a long one. She is a long one.
Well, the original movie, when it premiered, that was one of the last times the full version of the film was seen, because it was chopped up when it was actually sent to be seen in other countries. So that's part of the reason why it's taken so long to try to restore the full version of the film, because after its premiere, it was cut severely.
Right.
And many individual movie theaters had the option to be able to do that on their own, so that they could cater to their particular audience. And so it's taken a long time to track down pieces of the film, because different theaters would cut different things.
And we still don't have 100% of it.
No, we don't. We don't. But it's an amazing movie. And the costume, the robot costume, that is metal, is what that is.
Yeah.
The young actress that was put in there, they had to basically install her inside of that suit, so she couldn't easily get out. And if you search, if you do a Google search or even a Bing search, you can find some of those pictures to where they were able to take off the mask. There's one picture I've seen where they were able to take off her mask, and they have her on set still in costume, and they have fans on her. They had different things attached to the suit to be able to cool the inside, and somebody had to hold a cup to allow her to get something to drink. But go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. I didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah, kind of like what Das Wolf was saying, how this, or somebody was saying about how this inspired C-3PO. And you see some of the stuff that Anthony Daniels went through, especially with Star Wars, even though that wasn't a metal suit. You can kind of see that similarity, but she had a lot worse.
Yeah. Well, it was good that she was young. Okay. It was, I think they allowed Bridget Helm to play the inside of the robot. I'm not sure, but she was the young actress that was the female lead. And I think it was, I think that was the first full-length movie of this genre. That was one of the longest science fiction films ever made up to that point. And I think it cost 5 million Reichmarks. So it's the equivalent of about 21 million euros now.
Yeah.
And I think what happened was that I think Fritz Lang stuck around until just as the Nazis were coming to power, and I think he took his first available opportunity to just immigrate.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The failed painter with the funny mustache is coming. I'm out of here.
Yeah, it's like, you know what, I'm good. But it's not Fritz Lang's only film that he's made. I mean, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari is also one of those films that the visual style alone of that movie is trippy. I mean, you feel like you're taking drugs and you haven't taken anything. So just think of what it's like if you're actually on drugs and watching that thing. I personally like to think that Steve Ditko got a lot of ideas for creating Doctor Strange from watching that film. So
I could see
that's
that.
just me, though.
I could see where you can see that. Not saying you're wrong. I'm saying I'm seeing where you get that visual.
Oh, come on. You're saying he's wrong. Come on, Doc.
No, I'm not.
Settle down over there.
Keith knows if I think he's wrong, I would say something.
Yeah, you would. But I think for many people of a certain age around the world, their first taste of what this movie is, Metropolis, came from the Giorgio Moroder restyling of the film. And what I mean is that he was able to get the rights to the movie and colorized it, and then used his influence as a music producer, best-selling worldwide music producer, and was able to get a soundtrack to go with it. So he replaced the original music soundtrack to a silent movie and created a must-see film experience in the middle of the 80s.
Yep.
With a soundtrack that included Freddie Mercury, Loverboy, and Adam Ant.
Wow.
And that soundtrack is still selling today. There are a lot of artists on that soundtrack. And a lot of those songs are songs that weren't even really recorded for their own individual uses. These were originally recorded just for the soundtrack to this movie. And especially Freddie Mercury's contribution, Love Kills.
Yep. Here's My Heart by
think-
Pat Benatar.
Circle
Here She
5.
Comes.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one. Bonnie Tyler's song, Here She Comes.
Yeah.
That and the music video that goes with it are amazing.
Billy Squires, On Your Own.
I forgot about Billy Squires' contribution. Oh, my goodness. Leave your contribution at your side.
Yeah, I mean, back in about that mid 80s and all that, that really started to get a bit of a resurgence in popularity of Metropolis, and people were wanting to do interesting things with that film. Much the same way with Nosferatu. They were wanting to do the same thing with Nosferatu. So, and of course, Metropolis seemed to have dropped off. And is the interest in it coming back again?
Well, for the benefits of today's subject matter, we're using it as one of the stepping stones and one of the many films pre-CGI. I mean, as I stated before, some of the amazing things that went on as to how they were able to make this in 1927. I mean, you've got to understand and really get your mind around that. This is a movie made in 1927 that helped to inspire the film Blade Runner.
Right.
Yep.
Wow.
And
anyway.
a lot of the modern concepts of modern sci-fi come from the original book from 1925.
Yeah.
Well,
I think
oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, what I think it shows is that the talent behind those that did visual effects, especially before CGI became so prevalent, were vastly more, what would you say, going out there and being inventive. Because it's like, how we're going to do this but hide what we're doing. We're doing a sleight of hand show here. And, if we do it wrong, it's going to look horrible. But if we hit this right, it's going to look great. And, and especially with a film like Metropolis, where this is virgin territory.
Yeah. A use of, it's the use of forced perspective. It's the use of really stark sets, lighting, and also taking advantage of the fact that given the technology up to that point, I mean, this was black and white silent film. So understanding what you had and the limits of what you were working with and working within all of that to create something that was just incredible. And that really is the lesson even today for filmmakers. It's one of the things that even Steven Spielberg talks about. If you want to be a great director, a great filmmaker, you got to learn the limits of the equipment that you have. And way too many people that fall off try to do the things that they've seen other more professional people with bigger budgets and and a lot more people working with it, they try to replicate that and not understand that if you just learn the limits of all your equipment and then push the limits of that equipment to do better, rather than trying to attempt to do something that you've seen before. Try to do a shot-for-shot thing that you've seen before with a bigger budget, you come out with better results. That's really how you move forward.
Well, yeah, there's a difference between copy and pasting and being inspired. And even more so with the silent film, where the visuals are much more important than anything else, because they're of course they're overacting, over emoting, because they have to convey those emotions. But more importantly, again, the sets, the special effects. If they don't ring right, this film would be laughed at, would not be remembered.
That's right. And then you combine it. You have to have good actors, physical actors, and that's the reason why I think if you are starting out as a filmmaker, you at least have to attempt to make a silent film once in your life, just to understand exactly how difficult it is to do that. Because one would think that it's easy. It's old. It must be easy. It's not. It is not at all.
No.
But this is one of those films that you really, really, if you've never seen it, I highly recommend that you take some time off and just sit down and watch it. There's nothing in it that's really controversial. The messages are really the controversy. But it's not anything that you can, implied. There are certain implied things.
Yeah.
But nothing that you can physically see. It is definitely, in my humble opinion, it's definitely one of those great, if I were to put together a list of the 500 movies you have to see before you die, Metropolis is on that list.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's in black and white, and they don't talk. I can't handle that. I want to see Thor and Hulk smash. That's about my speed.
That is unfortunate for those people who feel like that.
Oh, yeah. You know these people. It's like, you know what you're missing out there? What inspired? Really. And then even films that weren't science fiction in that era, they're taking a cue off of Metropolis. How were they going to show a scene that would be virtually impossible, truly large physical scale, and do model work or whatever, and put into a movie that's not even science fiction. What was it? Out of Africa? I can't remember which one it was, but they had a train shot where the train's going across there, and the train, they said, that was a model. What? Yeah, we just did a practical model on that. So in many ways, Metropolis inspiring that. If you can't do it one way, we can do it another.
That's the reason why, as we were saying on yesterday's show, that's what blows me away with the spending on some of these films. You don't really need to be spending outrageous amounts of money.
No.
Just figure out another way to do it. And sometimes doing that is even more effective than going out and spending money and trying to, create something either by way of CGI or taking some other shortcut to do it. It's just, anyway.
Well, we were told that when CGI came around, special effects would become cheaper. Ha! Right, and they're going to look better. Yeah.
Well, in certain cases, look, CGI does help to enhance things.
Yeah.
If you know what you're doing, CGI should enhance something. It shouldn't become the end-all, be-all of what you end up using for a movie. If you learn how to use it sparingly, it should enhance anything that you do.
Right.
Which
we have a
brings
visitor.
Oh, we do. Okay.
Talking about special effects, we saw.
Oh, Christopher, how's it going, big man?
My friends, can you hear me okay?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
It's good to see
What
you.
about your enemies? Your friends? What about your enemies? Come on. Don't leave us out.
He have no enemies. Look at him. He's
Excuse
adorable.
me. We have mutual enemies in evil cats.
Oh,
Oh,
wow,
we heard about El
dude.
Diablo Gato. Yeah.
It's kind of hard to twist. There
Damn.
it is.
Holy cow.
Dude.
Trying to rescue a fish from my tank from the jaws of a cat. I was unsuccessful.
Oh, man.
And I got that for my troubles and that. So
And one more fish.
a dojo.
Sorry, dude.
But you had me at practical effects, pre-CGI special effects. You know I love them. I got
Oh, yeah.
the privilege of getting to work for the Oscar-winning special effects company, Studio ADI, who, of course, got their start working for Roger Corman and then Stan Winston on movies like Invaders from Mars, Aliens, Pumpkinhead, then went on with their own company to do Tremors, Alien franchise from 3 on, Prey, Starship Troopers, Race to Witch Mountain. The list goes on. And of course, the Thing prequel, where their practical effects got painted over by CGI. So then they went and did Harbinger Down, which I got to be a part of as well. And of course, did a lot of practical effects for my own movie, The Quantum Terror. And I brought some practical effects today to show, but I did see someone mention the Wizard of Oz tornado. That's a classic. There's some great. Was this on the list of things to talk about? The Wizard of Oz, was that one?
Yeah, that was part of my. I was going to go from Metropolis to King Kong, and from King Kong, and just go down the list and just sort of, just try to make it one giant history lesson, because people really need to understand what we're talking about here. Again, from Georges Méliès in A Trip to the Moon to Metropolis, and the fact that Metropolis is a German film, just not that long after World War One, they were able to do this, and this is between World War One and World War 2 And think about all the creative stuff that happened. I mean, just to get creative within our nerddom, you had the coming of comic books, Superman and Batman, all pre-World War II.
And on the other hand, on the German side, it wasn't just the films; it was a whole art movement. Which, there's a great movie called Max about the post-World War I art movement, expressionism, and it's actually, I mean, it's tragic, but it's also kind of funny that they show a certain mustached German trying to make his way in the world of art, and Max looking at his drawings for his future plans accidentally inspires this mustache man to go on and form his movement. Let's just say a rather horrendous bowel movement.
Actually, more truthfully, went in and infiltrated it and took over that movement. But which is kind of funny, that movie, just off topic quickly, that movie Max was slightly based on a true story, because that little Austrian, the person who was selling his art in Vienna was Jewish. We don't know exactly who that person fully is or whatever, but I think that was what some of the inspiration for Max was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, as I said before, go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to say Lenny Bruce had his own version of how that took place as well, which is really funny. But again, going off topic, the reason I brought it up, though, was that Germany was, incorporating a lot of expressionism into their filmmaking, which is what got you Metropolis and also got The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, both which implied miniatures and forced perspective. And what I love about Metropolis is that because the miniatures were so elaborate and so fantastic, but at the same time, they were a little bit stylized. They got to fudge a little with the Force perspective because of how closely tied into Germany's art movement filmmaking was. And we see that in a lot of, and I see Beetlejuice being mentioned as well as Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Funnily enough, directed by the same person as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, because I do want to talk about King Kong. And before I forget, Tom Woodruff Jr., who won the Oscar for Alien 3, and I got to work for, he is, of course, friends with Bob Burns, who had the original armatures for both King Kong and Mighty Joe Young. Tom got to play with those, and Tom, being a big stop motion fan, actually made a short that you can go check out on the Studio ADI YouTube channel called Steel in Love, where he once again animates the original King Kong armature. And it's actually a very kind of heartbreaking story because it's the armature without the skin, the fur on it. And it's him waking up after decades and finding pictures of Fay Ray. So go watch it. If you're watching this, go check that out on the Studio ADI channel, Steel in Love.
If you can put the link in the private chat, I can make it accessible for everyone.
Oh, yes, that's a good idea. I will search it up right now.
That's why we got Martine around him.
Yeah.
He's just,
He's the glue. He's the glue that keeps the show together.
We don't do that.
You know, the other person that had some of those armatures was Forrest J. Ackerman.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I actually mixed up the names. It was probably well,
I think it was Forey that had them.
Yeah, I think I got it mixed up.
Yeah. Burns had like the Robbie the Robot and stuff like that, and some Frankenstein.
Forrest also had that. They both were collectors. Both of these gentlemen were collecting, and they both realized the same thing at the same time, that the studios were throwing a lot of this stuff away, and they just started collecting. In other words, how a lot of geeks and nerds have their rooms and stuff now is how both of these gentlemen basically decorated their homes.
Yeah, and I got it right the first time. I double checked. It was Bob Burns.
It was Bob Burns. Okay,
it was Bob Burns. Yes,
it's so hard to get between those two.
Well, I mean, but the story is that Forrest did have a few of them, because the first time Peter Jackson went to go visit Forrest J. Ackerman at the Acker Mansion, he had some, and Peter had remarked about that. Although I think Bob Burns probably had more of those surviving pieces, Forrest did have one or two, because he also had the time machine. He had Bela Lugosi's full Dracula costume with the jewelry.
Nice.
I mean, he had it all. And when you read about what the Acker Mansion had within it, and ultimately what happened to the Acker Mansion when he died, it's sad, because his son didn't realize his son made a mistake. I mean, they basically just demolished all of it. Even with various celebrities, various filmmakers, various people like Steven Spielberg, and people like Peter Jackson and Guillermo del Toro and others were offering to try to keep the Acker Mansion standing, and they decided to demolish the whole thing. Divide up the collection, and go ahead.
Oh, no, it's just funny because the same thing happened with Ray Bradbury's home after he died. And I noticed the Slasher Fred mentioned, as far as dystopian futures, Fahrenheit 451. I did get to work for Ray Bradbury doing some practical effects, miniatures, and stop motion for a documentary that was going to be about his life, but he died during production. He was a producer of it, and without his guiding hand, it fell apart, unfortunately. But my friend Bill Oberst Jr., who then went on to do a one-act play based on the works and imaginations of Ray Bradbury, he had acquired a piece rubble from the demolition of Ray Bradbury's home,
Wow.
and keeps it as a souvenir, as a way, as an homage. But we should go back to King Kong though, because man, what a groundbreaking movie. And I've heard some people go like, you watch it now and it's silly. I don't think it's silly at all. I think it's absolutely wonderful. Oh, Penny, nice to see you. By the way,
you have to.
Hey, look at those muscles! Wow,
lifting weights for the ladies in the chat.
He's going to look like Arnold soon. He's going to be like Arnold. He's going to say, "Get into the chopper! Into the chopper!"
When I'm lifting
Hear me
weights,
now,
it's like
believe me
I'm
later.
making love to women.
Oh my God!
Hey, sorry. Remember when I said I'd kill you last? I lied.
Yes, Peter Venkman. Yes. They tore down the Acker Mansion. There were a lot of famous people who got. They made a pilgrimage to Hollywood and always decided to go by the Acker Mansion, where Forrest J. Ackerman would happily give them a tour.
Mm-hmm.
And they ended up tearing it down,
and
which
also,
was sad.
Studio ADI is no more that Tom and Alec. Tom went on to, I don't know if he retired. I think he was thinking about directing some movies. But if you went into the Studio ADI reception room, it was like a museum, and not only to their own work. I mean, they had the Alien and the Predator fighting each other, and stuff from Starship Troopers and Tremors. And it's funny, the Brain Bug was hanging on the wall in their shop, like the full size animatronic Brain Bug. But they also had a replica pulled from the original casting molds of Robbie the Robot. They had one of Ray Harryhausen's dinosaurs. I forget what movie it was from, but it was one that he did a test paint on. It wasn't a screen used one, but still, wow.
Yeah.
Ray
Harryhausen.
And they also had, what was the other thing that they had that I thought was just amazing? I mean, they had all sorts of great stuff, but they were, this is the thing is, and a big difference now between who's in charge of making movies today versus who was making movies in the 80s and 90s. These are all fans. You bring up Ray Harryhausen or Bob Burns or movies like
Forrest J. Ackerman was going to try to do he was trying to get the Lord of the Rings made.
Yeah.
And he was the first person who contacted Tolkien, because that's in Tolkien's book. They put together an entire book of all these letters that Tolkien received. And in that book is Forrest J. Ackerman's really nice letter to Tolkien, and Tolkien's very eloquent way of saying no. So
that movie you were talking about, Chris, is The Animal World. That's the Ray Harryhausen movie that was that had the dinosaurs in it.
Oh, okay. Wow, good job there. Good.
Look at that, Wolfit.
Well, I know Ray Harryhausen. We share a birthday.
Oh, nice.
Oh, wow.
So
obviously not the same year.
Oh, definitely not the same year.
But I mean, when you look at King Kong, and not only, the stop motion, but the way that they used rear projection along with stop motion. I don't know if that was the first time it had ever been done, but just watching that movie now and seeing some of the restorations, even the restorations where they put it in 4K, hold up very well. And I think there's some pretty intense scenes in there. I can only imagine.
It's Willis O'Brien.
Yeah.
Yep.
But the way they integrated the actors in with the stop motion, again, I don't know if it ever been done in that way before. It certainly started Ray Harryhausen on his career in terms of all the wonderful stuff he gave us. But I can only imagine what it must have been like going to see King Kong as a kid in the theater and never having seen anything like that before. I know my grandfather used to talk about going to see it as a kid. And
it's
that
probably the same feeling we had in 1977 when we saw Star Wars.
About.
well, I was 1 year old in 1977, but
Oh, he's a youngin. He's a youngin.
but boy, was I
Look at these young
huge into
pups.
Star Wars. Or, the last time I had that feeling though was with Jurassic Park, which of course is when CG hit. But one of the things, I know we're not talking about CGI today, but one of the things that I always tell people is it wasn't the CGI technology by itself that was so groundbreaking, but it was the fact that it made its debut in the hands of the great practical effects artists. They knew how to light it, how to present it, because if you see subsequent CGI movies, when it kind of became the trend, it looked like hot garbage because they thought the producers just thought it was the computers that were doing all the work. No, it was the artists. But anyway, I'm Keith. I know you've got stuff you want to say.
No, I'm like
King
everyone
Kong.
else. I am enjoying having you here, saying this stuff, being enthusiastic. Look, that's the way Saturday Morning Funtime should always be. Filled with fans, having fun, putting out information and amazing each other. And I'm just sitting here like everyone else going, wow. Wow.
I'm not having fun, and I'm spreading misinformation. So I just want to right now. We have to be candid. But you take a look though at King Kong and the artists that work on that one, how they were able to make that 18-inch armature model come to life, like it had, like with a living creature. The motions that was able to emote off of that armature, and what they did with that was just amazing.
Mm-hmm. You felt first of all, you felt that Kong was alive. And so I remember the very first time I saw that movie as a child, and even at the end of the movie with all of the things that happen, and your heart still goes out to Kong in the very end of that movie. Mm-hmm. That is true artistry. That is the ability to be able to imbibe or imbue an object with feelings. Right. And thus to elicit feelings from the audience is really what film is about. It's part of the magic. It's a magic trick. Like George Méliès had started out. He was an illusionist on top of being, a writer and a director. And really the art of filmmaking is in and of itself a magic trick.
I'll tell you something. Oh, go ahead, John.
In the end, it was beauty that killed the beast.
I'm pretty sure it was the planes and the guns, but
and the bullets.
It was John's immense beauty that did it. Con says, I can't compete.
It was Fay Ray without a bra making that 18-inch armature come to life.
It was also the sudden stop of the ground.
It's not the fall that killed it. No, that wasn't.
Here's the thing, though, I want to say about the special effects of King Kong and where there was a breakthrough there. I don't know. There may have been a breakthrough somewhere else that we're not aware of because, of course, history is selective with the what would you call it? The benchmarks that we know of.
Yes.
But where Méliès was a brilliant illusionist, King Kong really upped the game, and it's based on, and I always think of something that Stan Winston said to Alec, and it was great getting to work for Alec and Tom because they always had these stories to relay of people that they admired, that they talked to or had worked for, like Stan Winston or Roger Corman. But what Stan said about the special effects of Aliens, he said, you know why the audience believes the special effects? They believe it because Sigourney believes it. Meaning her performance brings so much to it. And honestly, I was only a kid the first time I saw King Kong, but that was kind of like part of the process of me becoming aware of girls, was the fact that Fay Ray was beautiful and she had a allure to her that made us believe that this giant ape could look at her and want to pick at her clothes when she's passed out and be like, "Hey, what's going on here?" You know, it's kind of that adolescent curiosity that was imbued in the armature that made him seem like an actual character rather than just a special effect. And that, I think, is the big thing that everyone else after that learned from that movie, was that if you treat your effects like a character, you give it some emotion, and instead of it just being a prop. And that is really also, you know, the basis of a lot of animation. If you watch animated movies and the way that their stories are written, they're written to really kind of let the animators go to town on bringing not just moment to moment action story beats, but breathing life into those moments. So, you know, but having good actors that really sell the special effects, that's a big part of it. And I think that's why we forgive a lot of flaws in the old special effects, where now we have quote unquote more realistic special effects, which honestly, who cares? But we have all these vacuous stories and these like phoned in performances, or performances by people who are there because they look good on camera, but they don't have the training as before. You know, it used to be that the studios, you know, before everyone broke off and became independent, and the studios would contract people, but they would also pay to make sure that, you know, you had constant acting lessons, dance lessons, special talent, that sort of thing. So, you know, I think, yeah, there's really something to be said with, even though we may look at King Kong now and, you know, see the fur move, because every time the person, you know, posing the armature would move it, there was real fur on there, so the fur would get moved as well. So it kind of had that shifting look. We still are emotionally invested.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
by the way,
I liked it.
Wes Anderson, when he did the Fantastic Mr. Fox, insisted on having real fur on the armatures because he wanted to see the artist's touch in the movement of the stop motion.
You kind of had the same thing with Wallace and Gromit, because they were using the plasticine, and sometimes you can see where the little fingerprint marks on there, and they consider that a love letter. A love letter. You can tell that we are doing this by hand.
You know what my favorite part of Wallace and Gromit is just that story beat where Wallace is such a big fan of cheese, and he likes this girl, but she doesn't like cheese, and it's a deal breaker for him.
Yep. Oh, how shallow.
Wow.
Yeah, those are great shorts. And the movie, the Curse of the Were-Rabbit.
Lovely cheese, Gromit. So what are we moving on to next? So, is there more King Kong to cover?
Well, actually, we're going to go. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to sit back and say, again, another thing with the artistry is, King Kong didn't have any lines. It's a growl, growl, growl. And they were able to bring that childlike innocence that Kong had, basically being thrown out of his world and literally being attacked and used like that.
Yeah.
For once, it's not my dogs. I can't. I feel better now.
Well, King Kong, like I said, like we mentioned, it was Willis O'Brien that was the special effects master behind King Kong, and it was a young Ray Harryhausen watching King Kong that was inspired to do what he did, and later on he got to work with Willis O'Brien and on Mighty Joe Young.
Yes, Mighty Joe Young, who changed size from scene to scene.
Yeah,
but it was still a great, fantastic movie. And those are both those movies are based on a very clever notion that the writers had, which is, ultimately we sympathize with them, but they're like animals. They have emotions, they have feelings, and they're vulnerable no matter what size they are, but they're still lacking the human moral center. They don't have anything, they don't understand morals, so they act as animals, and they're brought into a world where human morality is applied to them, and when it doesn't work, it ends badly for them. So you
like
know,
Black Demon Cats or El Diablo Gato.
yes,
I see your Black Demon Cat behind you there.
that is Mr. Spock. He's not the one that got me.
Okay, that's Mr. Well, of course, because he's a pacifist. He's logical.
Yes, but you know, still, I mean, he can stay back there. El gato permanece sentados, por favor.
Well, the next, and speaking of Disney, that leads us to the next thing that we're going to talk about. And in this case, it's a person. It's Peter Ellenshaw.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You've heard the name.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Peter Ellenshaw worked as a matte painting artist. And matte paintings were really, I think, the glue that held a lot of films together, starting, 1936, late 1930s, all the way up. Because when you look at films like, Treasure Island, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea,
mm-hmm.
You look at Darby O'Gill and the Little People, you look at The Black Hole,
yeah,
Bedknobs and Broomsticks,
Dick
Tracy. Oh, yeah. A lot of films during this period used matte paintings. Even going into television, well, I should say, even going into films like Forbidden Planet.
Oh, yes.
One of my favorites.
And that film not only inspired in the way that it used its characters for Star Trek, that film was also going to be the creative basis of how Star Trek was going to use its visual effects had the show been properly funded the way that they had originally asked. Mm-hmm. The original idea for Star Trek was to make it a lot like Forbidden Planet.
It was like, Forbidden Planet, and Forbidden Planet, I think, was inspired, aside from the obvious, which is, the William Shakespeare's The Tempest.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's kind of also inspired by Robert Heinlein, who, originally I think he was the original person that kind of came up with the idea of military in space. Mm-hmm. That ships wouldn't just be, people like Flash Gordon flying around in a cockpit, but that there would be a crew and they would go from planet to planet. And if you read Starship Troopers, there's a lot more about the alien cultures and what things are like on what life is like on their planet. And I think that all kind of went into Forbidden Planet, which to this day, again, now the great thing about Forbidden Planet is it wasn't just matte paintings, but there was actually a full set painting. It's like a 60-foot wide backdrop, hand painted, of the alien planet, and it's still hanging in a studio. I've seen people go and get to take pictures with it behind them. That's kind of a bucket list thing for me. I would love to be able to do that. But I just think of all the matte paintings. I mean, Star Wars had amazing matte paintings through the original trilogy. Logan's Run had some stellar ones.
Yep.
And even Alfred Hitchcock used matte paintings a lot.
Yep.
In his movies. So, it was, and a lot of times, you look at them, you go like, that's a painting, but it's still a beautiful cinematic painting. It doesn't, again, It's like realism. I think people put too much stock in. If you get it just real enough, and it's contingent on the fact of, the film stock of the day. They took that into account. People that, some of these restorations, they like bring them into 4K and you're going like, oh, it doesn't look that good in 4K. It's like that. No, because it was designed around the film grain, the stock of the time, it's so, in a way that's kind of a shame that sometimes sharper, higher resolution, people always think that like the best resolution, the most realistic is always the best. And I disagree with both of those things. We want to see artistry. We want to see people work within these resolutions.
The people creating the 4K versions of these older movies use too much ADR too much of the noise reduction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true. And a lot. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, a lot of that is because of, you all know that I'm an AI enthusiast, but
Yeah,
they run. But you're
You are
absolutely
an AI.
right. They run a lot of this stuff through automated cleanup, and there's nobody actually applying their ear. And I've got access to some really amazing audio cleanup tools for what I'm working on right now, but I am working with a really great sound mixer because I need that ear for the exact reason that you're talking about. This, getting all the hiss or the room tone out of something, because you're losing fidelity with that. You're losing the depth of sound. I love my vinyl records for that reason. And I don't want the remasters, because the remasters are digital, just pressed into vinyl. It's a fraud. You listen to those original analog records, you close your eyes. It's almost like you could reach into the room that it's being recorded in. It's hard to quantify in verbally, but I know you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well,
sometimes you want to hear that sound where there's a little bit of a stroke against a string, where you have that yeet sound that wasn't meant to be there, but it has that sense of artistry. It adds to a different level, level to that. And sometimes those mistakes become iconic.
Oh yeah. It was that the White Stripes knew that. There's a take on their last album where an instrument, I think it's some chimes or something, falls over in the middle of playing, but they liked the take so much they left it in, and they left the chimes in. They didn't try and digitally clean them out. And thank you, Cam. Appreciate that. But yeah, going back to, is there a matte painting, Keith, that you like? I can think of a few that amaze me. There's obvious ones and there's not so obvious ones, but
I have a list of them. I watched a lot of films. I mean, a lot of the biblical epics, all that stuff. But you know what? For me, it was the very first one that I remember identifying, and that was the processing station in Where No Man Has Gone Before.
Yeah.
For Star Trek. That to me, really just stood out. And in learning now that there was this whole plan to have more stuff like that, to have been a part of Star Trek, to try to do it more, to fill out the look of a lot of these alien landscapes, that there was actually thought put forth to try to improve everything, is one of the great unfortunate side effects to how that show was created. Unfortunately, I would have loved to have seen them had the money to be able to do the show the way they originally wanted to. I think it really would have been a visual feast. And to fill out the whole thing with Harrison Ellenshaw, or should I say Peter Ellenshaw, his dad. When he came in, his first job was working on Things to Come in 1936, which is just a few years after King Kong. And working for his mentor, which is W. Walter Percy Day, he eventually made his way to Hollywood, Mr. Ellenshaw's English, and ended up working on the very first live-action film for Disney, which was Treasure Island. Then 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, as I said before, and Mary Poppins, which that's the other film that really, for me, stood out. Lots of great map work in Mary Poppins. And it's one of the things that made, I think, in my mind, the sequel, Mary Poppins Returns. It was one of the things that kind of, I think I picked up on subconsciously. I liked both those movies, but the first one still has a quality to it because of all the matte painting work. You can use volume and CGI on the newer version. And there's, as you said before, Christopher, there's a difference the human eye can pick up on those differences, and that's really the thing that should be taken into account. When you're creating it. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say with Mary Poppins, which by the way I think is a wonderful movie on many levels, I still it's a story about the importance of both being responsible and accountable, but also the importance of play. And there's such a playful quality to all the effects in Mary Poppins. And I have to say, in addition to the matte paintings, the scenes with the animation interacting with live action and the backgrounds, they didn't use rear projection or any blue or green screen. They actually just had black backgrounds. And they had a camera with a crystal in it that split the light in such a way that they could flawlessly insert those backgrounds. And if you look, there's no matte lines or anything behind them. All their hair is in full fidelity. That crystal was made so precisely, and I believe it's like in some archive somewhere at this point. They've never been able to reproduce a crystal for a camera that does it as well as that particular crystal. It was like a one-time thing for that movie. I don't know. I'll say this. I don't know if they reused that camera and that crystal for anything else, but that was the only crystal that was ever made for that. But if you look at that movie, it is astounding that for the time it was made, that they have such perfect integration between a painted background and actors. And that, again, no CGI. It was done completely optically.
I'm telling you, you could bring down the cost of a lot of these films if you just try to dig back into a lot of these pre-CGI techniques and try to figure out a way of moving a lot of this forward without having to, spend too much money doing it. I think a lot of things could be gained, especially for those coming into the business, those growing into the business, to try to use some of those techniques rather than trying to be very dependent on spending a lot of money and using a lot of post visual effects to have to emphasize and reinforce what they've done.
Well, there's a lot of trade-offs. These days, unfortunately, and again, this is why movies suffer so much. These inexperienced directors and producers, because the producers think like, oh, we can get inexperienced directors for cheaper. Well, then you get these inexperienced directors that don't know how to plan properly. And so CGI appeals in that case because they can go and, they can change the look. The director can change their mind a bunch of times about what the monster looks like, or the producer can hand down some notes and they just, do some more comping and that sort of thing. But as I've heard it put before, it's not me that said this, but I always like this term. With the VFX houses, it's a race to the bottom because they're all competing to be able to do it faster, cheaper, but not better. And the example that I saw is actually Corridor Crew just did a visual effects artist react where they were looking over the effects for The Flash. And it was essentially like some of the effects are so atrocious for this $100 million, $200 million movie. And it's essentially the VFX artists were like coming forward and going like, yeah, we had a week to do that. That's why it looks like crap. But when you plan and you're committed to something, which you have to do with practical effects, then you have to really sit down and go, okay, how do we make sure we don't mess this up? Because we've only got the one shot at it.
Well, that's what really makes the MCU worse. No matter how you feel about The Flash, what makes what happens with the MCU worse is that they knew how to do this stuff before. And they have since gotten really, really, really bad at it. And a majority of the visual effects houses, especially all the ones that work with Disney, hate working on the MCU films now because they've gotten so bad at it. There is no planning. There is an overabundance of reliance on CGI and post effects to the point that it's obscene. And they've taken what started out as being this incredible journey with all these characters, and it's just become just it's a chore to make it through some of these films. And when you get to something like Black Widow and the scene where you have really the antagonist, the main villainous antagonist, take off their mask and it's a woman. There's kind of like a CGI effect around her face because that really wasn't initially a woman in that scene. It was supposed to be a man, and they had to use visual effects to do a face replace so they could add the actress's face in there.
So stupid.
It is stupid.
So
Again,
stupid.
you took $1 billion money-making franchise and flushed it down the toilet inside of just a few, in very short amount of time with what they were able to not accomplish in phase 4, and have completely ruined it by the time you get to phase 5. And don't get me started on all the D+ stuff. Again, I'm not saying the Flash.
I don't want to get him started.
I'm not saying that the Flash is not bad. The Flash is horrible. But
Keith,
at least it didn't bring down an entire best billion-dollar franchise. And anyway,
Keith,
that's
these words you speak are true. We're all luminaries, Stu. If you don't pledge allegiance to the Black Widow.
Well, again, they forgot. They forgot the important thing. They turned them into flashbang noise movies, and they forgot that. No, it's the story that's important. In fact, I can't remember who it was that was working with Star Wars, and he started out saying about, what was the success of Star Wars trilogy. He starts going in there and starts listing off all the special effects, and he goes, "No, in all reality, it's the story. We were only there to enhance the story. We were only there to help the story along. If we don't have the story, if we don't have the people who are acting in there, this all means nothing." And that's what MCU's become.
Well, I was just going to say, after you saw the Black Widow in Iron Man 3, and especially in the first Avengers film, her movie should not have cost any more than $80 million. It should have been made as if it was one of the Bourne movies, because that's really what her character is in the comics. And so to have spent what they spent on that movie is obscene.
Yeah,
it is the best example of not understanding a character that you should have understood, especially when you were the ones making these movies. And that's what really is, it's insane about all of this and where we are, where the MCU is. It's insane.
You're getting to the heart of why why Hollywood is collapsing right now, why the writers are on strike, and yet nobody cares.
No.
Because the studios are gotten sick and tired of these writers who don't know anything about storytelling. They just either think that actors are there to repeat their activist lines that are on their mind that day. They don't know how to structure a story. They don't know how to tell a story for special effects. Therefore, they go and shoot this stuff. And then when they get it into the editing room, they go, "Oh, crap, none of this makes any sense. We got to go reshoot." The producers are justifiably sick of it. Of course, they brought it on themselves by allowing these hacks into the room to begin with. But it's, ultimately, that's these people that are protesting right now. Not all of them, but I also blame the ones that are talented that still let them in. There's no reason to have them. So it's better to wait them out until they're forced to seek life elsewhere. And that's what happens. These visual effects artists get these it's like the scene where the girl's standing right next to the thing that explodes and gets thrown back. That was done in a day, I'm sure, because the explosion was a stock explosion and it was the wrong size. The proportions of the explosion coming at her were a completely different size, shrunk down to fit in the frame with her, and it looked ridiculous. And the VFX artists are like, I don't care at this point. This story's crap. I'm working crap hours. I'm getting paid crap. Just throw it in there. And if they approve it, great. Just shove it through. And this is the big problem. It's not the tools. And I'll say this, I hear a lot of people complain of like, oh, this movie just looks like it was all shot on the volume. It's like, I think the volume is rad. I'd love to work with the volume.
I agree. I think it's a great tool.
But they don't, the thing is you get these directors, and I'll give you an example. Ant-Man Quantum Mania, or whatever the hell it was called.
Quaalude Mania.
What?
Quaalude Mania.
Yeah, right. I heard someone refer to it as was it Medium Shot the movie. They have this wonderful volume, but they've got directors that don't know how to compose a shot. Everything behind them's out of focus. So yeah, when you've got shallow depth of field with the screen behind you, it makes it look even more like a screen. The fact is, these directors don't know how to arrange a composition, how to plan, how an edit is going to fit together. So they just have medium shot after medium shot. They might as well all be standing around in a room. Right. It's not the fault of the volume that they're using the volume that it looks like crap. It's that they've got this wonderful tool and they don't know how to use it. It's like handing a kid on his third guitar lesson Jimi Hendrix guitar and going like, why can't you make this sound like Jimi Hendrix? But if you hand Jimi Hendrix a
ukulele with 3 strings,
like a pawn shop guitar for $100 or something, he won't take it because he's dead. But if he was alive, he would make it sound amazing.
See what he did. Well, I mean, look at
Chris. I'm sorry. Chris and Keith, please. I want you to explain this to Kings.
The volume?
Yeah.
I'll you know what? I'll let Chris explain it. But for me, I didn't hear of it until The Mandalorian. But it's the wall that they used. Yeah, go ahead.
I had seen it before The Mandalorian, but that was the first time it really got publicity. It's funny, it was some indie filmmakers that originally came up with the idea. And it was quite amazing when I first saw it, and a lot of the responses was like, oh, that's cool, but how on earth would you ever use that? And of course, The Mandalorian showed us. So essentially what it is, it's essentially a room, in the case of The Mandalorian, that is completely walled with a massive curved LED screen, 4K screen, where they can essentially bring up on these screens backgrounds made in primarily made in a program called Unreal Engine, which is a game engine. They use it for real-time gameplay, but it's really good with realism. And they can rearrange, if you're in an alien canyon, you can rearrange rocks in real time. And the advantage of shooting in one of these is you're getting the ambient light on the actor. So you're not getting green spill like with a green screen that then has to be keyed out and cleaned up and recolored. The actor gets to see what's actually behind them, it's on a screen. The cameraman's getting the lighting from it, so the colors and stuff that would absorb into your skin, and in the Mandalorian's case, the armor is there in real time. And then the camera is synced up with the screen. So if the cameraman moves around the actor, you get with the correct focal length and everything that you would want, the camera, the objects on the screen will move in parallax. So you get perfect parallax around, so the cameraman can actually move around objects. So it's a really great tool if you don't want to deal with green screen. Again, the disadvantage is, of course, what you get in the camera is what you get. It requires some planning, but it allows you to do a lot of special effects setup shots on, alien environments or whatever. Or if you need to shoot at sunset, you can shoot at sunset for like 8 hours at a time. You don't have to worry about losing the light. If done properly, it's seamless. If done improperly, it looks exactly what it is, an actor standing in front of a giant screen. But Stanley Kubrick for 2001: A Space Odyssey, in the opening scenes, he used projections to do that. Same thing. All those scenes with the Neanderthals or whatever they were supposed to be in the monolith that look like they're outdoors were all done on a soundstage, and all of that stuff was projected. So, again, it's not the tools, it's the artist. And unfortunately, when you see people going like, oh, this show is just all on a volume, and I can tell, it's like, yeah, because the people shooting it aren't taking the time to make it look as it should. But I think the volume's awesome. But I think rear projection before that was awesome as well. You just couldn't do the parallax in real time. But one of my favorite movies, Aliens, the dropship crash where they're all running from it, that they shot the miniatures crashing beforehand and then they projected them on a screen for the actors to respond to. And again, looks pretty seamless. I didn't even know that, I didn't even question what was happening on the screen until I was older and going like, wait a minute, how do you get a giant flaming ship to come barreling at actors and a cameraman without killing them? So,
well, that was one of the things that brings us into Harrison Ellenshaw, who is the son of Peter Ellenshaw, who worked on Tron and a few other things. And personally, I didn't realize all of the matte paintings that were in Tron, which really makes a lot of sense when I finally sat down to think about it. But because you can't have the computer do everything.
No.
But
that's not the lesson they learned.
Unfortunately, no. But it was Harrison who worked on Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back and Tron, Superman Quest for Peace, The Watcher in the Woods, The Man Who Fell to Earth. And both he and his father just became masters of working on this stuff. And I think both of them, may have done some work on Return of the Jedi, because there's that famous scene where the Emperor lands on the second Death Star. And that a majority of what you see in that scene is actually painted on glass and is not real. The shuttle, many of the stormtroopers, the entrance to where they landed, the starfield behind, all that is fake. And it's only the stuff on a certain particular side, and they left a lot of that open through the glass so they could actually shoot the scene. And it's seamless. It is seamless when you see it. So you can't tell where the painting ends and the actual shooting on set begins. And that's the way it should be. You shouldn't be able to tell. And oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say the only other shot that I think is comparable to that shot was done with miniatures on Dune, where they built the miniatures of the ship, and it was amazing because they had the proper focal length. It looked like it had been shot on a really long lens, and they even got like the heat shimmer because they're supposed to be in this hot, dry desert planet, and man, it was, but again, it was inspired by that. I can't remember which came out first, if it was Return of the Jedi or
Return of the Jedi.
Return of the Jedi.
Because 83.
Yeah,
83.
But I remember
and Dune didn't come out until 84.
Because David Lynch was offered to do Return of the Jedi, but he opted to do Dune instead.
Yeah, well, he turned down Return of the Jedi. That's right. But yeah, as far as that matte painting goes, I mean, that's one of the things that made me want to get involved in special effects when I was a kid, because they would play specials on TV about the making of these movies, and of course you'd want to watch them because you were excited about the movie coming out. But then I saw, somebody hand painting, that scene, and just going, that's incredible. And just the fact that you can trick the eye, as long as it looks, whatever it's made out of, however it's done, as long as it looks good in that frame, the audience will never question it if they're absorbed in the story.
Right. If the lighting is off even just a bit, because you have to make sure that the paint on the glass matches the lighting that you have for that scene and what you have coming through the portion of the glass where the actors are. I mean, it's wow. There are so many little things that can go wrong. Right. And then there's painting on glass. And if you know anything about, I know Christopher, but it's the fact that you got to paint backwards. Everything that you can see in front of you has to be painted first and then layered on after, meaning that if you're painting like a mountain with trees in front of it, the trees have to be painted first before you can put the mountain on.
You know what the big tragedy about that though is that the studio, a lot of the times the studios were so cheap, they didn't want to buy more glass, so they would just have the artist scrape the old matte painting off the glass into the trash so they could do another one.
Yeah.
So a lot of those matte paintings are lost too, which is just, I mean, what the hell, man?
At least we got the stuff from Return of the Jedi is still around, thank God.
Oh man, that is just
because Lucas knew what he was. Lucas knew he was creating an no pun intended, an empire even then. You know, there were people that said that Lucas was like, well, I'm not really in the movie business, I'm in the toy business. You know, it's like, I don't know if that was a real quote or if that's just something that they you know, one of the apocryphal stories that you hear. But I've always kind of thought of that. You know, my mom bought me a portfolio of prints that was all Ralph McQuarrie's Star Wars work. That she's like, put this on a shelf, we'll frame these someday. We never did, and I don't know where it came from, but man, that work was cool, and the prints were nice too.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. Look, I know we're getting close on time, so let me cross over into one more person. That is Iwerks. This guy is the very definition of multi-talented. This guy was pretty much a genius. And if you were to think of Disney, which is where he worked with, he and Walt were the best of friends. He worked with the Disney brothers. There would be no Disney without this guy. Okay? You have to understand how important he was. He really was to the Disney brothers. He really was their Scotty in that sense. He was the guy who came up and solved all their problems. Any problem that they had, they took it to Ub. And Ub figured out how to do it. And Ub is someone who, to give you an example, Ub was the guy who came up and built the not the Panaflex, but the camera that they use to make all of their animated films with, where they would use a multi-plane camera. That's it, the multi-plane camera. He's the one that built that. That gave depth to a lot of their backgrounds and a lot of their animation. He figured it out. He was not the creator of that, but he found out how the people who made theirs did it and made it for Disney. And you can find that still on display at Disney World in Florida. This guy was so talented. He would learn on his own different sports, master it, and as soon as he mastered it, he would just drop it and move on to something else. Whether it be swimming, tennis, archery, you name it, he tried it, he did it, he was done. And he continued to be a problem solver for many people for a long time. In fact, when he was brought in by Alfred Hitchcock to solve the problem for the movie that he was making called The Birds. He didn't know how to make the birds attack people. Iwerks came up with that, and he got himself an Academy Award for that. Iwerks was the guy who put together the entire group of animators for the Disneys. He's the one that came up and got all of the people that would eventually become the Nine Old Men. And when he left Disney for a few years and started his own animation company, almost everybody that went to work for him when he separated and had his own company would eventually become some of the biggest names in animation years later. Many of these people would go off and start their own studios and create characters like Woody Woodpecker Beanie and Cecil.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the major people who ended up controlling Warner Brothers got their break working for him. This guy knew talent. He could sense it, and he could bring it forth, and knew how to work with people. And and just to add flavor to all of this, he was the one that did all of the initial drawing and animating for the Disneys. So Steamboat Willie, that was him. A lot of the initial animated films that Mickey Mouse was in was by Ub Iwerks. And Ub was so important that the original movie posters that they would play those shorts had his name big there, along with the Disney's name.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually his name got taken off subsequent versions of those posters thereafter, which led to a fracturing of his relationship with Walt for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a guy that understood how to basically solve problems. He was their problem solver, and is, to me, one of the great unsung heroes within the film business because he was that good.
And these are the kind of people that we're talking about, though, ultimately problem solvers. And yeah, you kind of almost had to have that kind of, like you said, you master one thing and then you move on, because you essentially are, it's like if a movie is a collage of different skills, then the people who work on movies are the ones that create the elements that you collage together. But if you are someone who is essentially going like, okay, this is how these are the elements we need, and it's never been done before, and also they need to fit together in just the right way, then you pretty much, you and maybe a small group of people of who are all like-minded need to be able to essentially be inventors and invent those things kind of all simultaneously so they can be tailor-made to fit together. And again, people in Hollywood these days, they don't know how to work this way. They think they do, and they think they innovate, but really they're just repeating what they learned from the people that came before who taught them. And then they subsequently ran out of the business, like John Lasseter being the example that comes to mind the most. But I had to laugh. I was a member of this group that is for Hollywood crew people. And there's no talking to these people, even the crew people, not all of them, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. You get a lot of these young people who came in, they learned just based on what they've been taught had come before. And there was this one person who posted this thing saying, I was on a set before the strike and I was just watching how well we operate together, and I saw this military convoy flying by. He's talking about helicopters and that sort of thing. And I was thinking to myself, if the apocalypse happened tomorrow, us movie crew people would be able to organize and survive it. And I was
like, jeez. Oh my goodness.
And I just
no way.
Oh wait, you're serious? Let me laugh even harder.
This is what they said. And of course, I'm like, man, you guys really think highly of yourselves. So my comment that I left on it was like, and then they all died because craft service didn't get their shipment.
Oh,
it's allow me to laugh in prepper.
It was just so, again, this is the level of arrogance. And like I said, these people haven't innovated anything. It's now, and look, I should talk because I'm taking tools that people have, whether it be things I've learned from the Stan Winston School of Character Arts or getting to spend time with the special effects artists that I grew up admiring, whether it be through interviewing them on my own channel or getting to work for them. It is, I appreciate the tools I've been given, and it is my goal to try and innovate and create with them in ways that I think people would really find entertaining. These people just think it's all point and click, you know, just like they think that when they drive their electric car, electricity just comes out of the wall. You know, they don't actually understand what makes electricity. But I still, you know, as much as, and you guys have heard me talk about AI over and over again, and I was even messing with it while we've been talking because I'm working on my Escape from Planet Omega 12, which is heavily inspired by Forbidden Planet and Star Trek and Robinson Crusoe on Mars and Green Slime and Fire and Ice and all that sort of thing. Matter of fact, hey, before we finish up, I want to show you guys a couple of things I've been working on.
Sure.
And
take
these
some
are
time
the
out to do that.
I'll do this really quick. Okay, so first of all, we have this guy who is a maquette of an alien worm, giant worm, that lives in a swamp, and I hand sculpted him, not AI. I will be taking photographs and using those photographs.
Wait. Let me put that on first plane.
It's a handsome
big
lad.
screen.
Here we go.
There
What a handsome
Look
lad.
at that.
So
Wow.
he's hand
I
sculpted.
bet you call him Jimmy.
I thought he kind of looked like Austin Powers with the teeth, but
Yeah, baby.
So, you know, he does look very British, doesn't he? Hello.
Oh my God.
Oh, I was a roadie back in the 70s. Anyway.
All our British friends, if you can send complaint letters to Chris at P.O. Box.
Right. So yes, to speak to
Real
that,
White Nation Gaming.
if we're going to talk about that, let's see. Here we go.
Oh, this one's heavy, folks. Whoa.
So this
Well, we can't show that on YouTube. Oh, come on. What kind of channel do you think this is, sir?
This is can you guys hear me okay with me back like this? Am I coming through all right?
Yeah, you're coming fine.
Okay. I think I'm on the wrong screen. There we go. Anyway, this is a miniature for Escape from Planet Omega 12 as well. There's a lot of giant alien mushrooms. You can kind of see the underside as well. So I'll be shooting this. This is made actually, the cap of the mushroom is actually made of cardboard with spackle and some cosplay foam. And then the base of the mushroom, which I actually based more on jellyfish. I thought combining mushrooms and jellyfish would be kind of cool to make them look more alien. So this is essentially bubble wrap with hot glue or Elmer's glue and some cosplay foam and silicone all painted.
Wow.
But again, I'm using 3D models and AI to create the characters or some of the characters, but I'm also using a lot of practical effects puppets, like this guy here, and miniatures, because I feel like, just like with CGI, if you use it for everything, the audience becomes numb to it. But and this is what, to this day, miniatures are still being used. Practical effects are still being used. In combination with CGI. CGI is kind of helping them to do things that they were more difficult to do in camera before, like rod removal or piecing things together, or maybe adding a little additional movement like blinks or more animated lively skin movement or that sort of thing. But, using them together, great. But just using CGI or just using AI, that's, if everybody can do it, then everybody does do it. And then it just becomes a glut. So you have to find a way to be the cream that rises to the top. And that's my solution. Is I've always loved puppets. I've always loved practical effects. I may even try and sneak some stop motion in there, because I do love all that stuff of old. And that sense of wonder doesn't come from just plug and play. It comes from what people with real imagination do with it. And I think that's the key to everything. The human touch. AI isn't going to erase the human touch. It's just going to allow people who aren't interested in being creative to do more. But the people who are creative with it and all the other stuff, they're always going to be the ones that wow the audience. And I think that's what we've really learned from these people that we talk about. The matte painting isn't amazing because it's a paint on glass. It's because of the human hand that painted the glass. These people are the true artists of the Renaissance brought into modern times. And that's, that's always going to be, and it's like, yes, I agree with the strikes in terms of having a right to your likeness, of course, but yeah, they're going to replace extras with AI characters. They don't need to scan them. They can generate them from whole cloth. But after a while, then it's going to become like the gimmick. Like, hey, we've actually got real extras instead of AI extras. And audiences are going to be like, oh, we haven't seen that in a while. There's a reason.
Thousands.
You could have, you could do the Mission Impossible stunts with digi-doubles, but it's the fact that Tom Cruise is actually doing the stunt that makes people show up, except for the last time. But, or Top Gun, people showed up to Top Gun because they're like, hey, we're using real planes. Tom Cruise is going to fly a real plane. The audiences are always going to be looking for something meaningful. And you can't just do that point and click, so boy, can I go off on these tangents. So anyway,
it's all good. It's all good.
I'm going to give you the show back, Keith, because I actually have to get going because I have, I took Friday off, and so I'm giving myself a 4-day weekend with a holiday so I can work on Escape from Planet Omega 12 and kind of finish up some stuff that needs to be done for the animation pipeline. But hopefully soon I will have some stuff to show you guys, and I would like to debut it, some of it on this show. There's a couple of other shows I'd like to debut other things on, maybe like spread it out. But, what I'm looking to eat Star Wars lunch. Star Wars, Disney Star Wars, by the way. Was it the quartering said they don't want to dead name Star Wars? This is Disney Star Wars. Disney Star Wars had me with The Mandalorian, and they had me with my girlfriend Gina. And then they squandered that goodwill on season 3, and I haven't even bothered with any of that. I'm all Gina'd out today, by the way. I want to create something that takes what was denied the Star Wars audience by Disney when Disney squandered their goodwill. I want to create something for that audience that they can fall in love with again and go like, this is it. This is what I want to show up for. And that's what I hope Escape from Planet Omega 12 is. And that's why I'm so grateful for you guys loving this stuff, this pre-CGI special effects. I'm going to bring all that in as well. So God bless you guys. It's wonderful to see you again. Even my arch nemesis, Baron Orman, and his evil cat, his not evil cat.
Not my cat. El Diablo Gato. But no.
Yes.
He's not my cat.
Does it have a laser beam attached to his head? Anyway, all right.
Thank you very much, Christopher.
I love you guys. Have a great weekend. Take care.
Take care,
you
man.
too.
Bye, Chris.
Let's see you again.
And much in that spirit, I just want to say that's the reason why I say what I say about Star Trek. I don't want to dead name Star Trek anymore. It's the reason why it has to be called K-Trek now.
Yeah.
There's a clear difference. There's a clear difference between Star Trek and all the Star Trek sequels and K-Trek.
Yep.
Clear difference.
Mm-hmm.
So,
amen.
Anyway, today was good. I think we did a lot here. I think we educated quite a few people. And I think we had a lot of fun today. So, Baron, where can people find you, big man?
Well, you can find me, of course, on my channel. Actually, I started doing some live streams again. We've been doing a show about Babylon 5 on Sundays at 7 o'clock my time, Central Standard Time. It's my channel is now Fandom Legacy, as you can see below my name there. So we're going to be talking about the second half of Babylon 5 season 2 next week. We're not doing it this week because of Labor Day. You can also find me on Pop Talk Wednesdays and Sundays, and of course the Primetime Kings of live stream on 24/7 Fusion Media. And I'm going to try to make more effort to get over here because I love you guys.
Wow. Well, we love you too, big man. Seriously. You are always welcome to come and hang out and have fun with us. And it's always great having you.
It's always great to be here. So sorry for such a long absence and all that. But like I said, things have been crazy.
That's all right. That's all right. I'm totally in touch with that. John, where can people find you, big man?
Well, besides here, on Tuesdays at 4, you can find my live stream on my own channel at Real Das Wolfen. Mondays, you can find me on That 70s Rock Fans channel for It's Only Talk and Roll. And on Wednesdays, you can find me on Joe's Atmosphere channel for Stay the Atmosphere. And that's at 5 Central.
Wow.
Sorry, 5:30.
Oh, okay.
You lied to us.
Yeah.
Your trick will not work this time. Martin. My man.
Well, you know, I'm always here. So
the most
Come
handsome
join us.
man on this show, Martin.
Right?
Pop Culture Minefield, male model.
That's right. He's the sex symbol of the channel.
that is why I use an avatar, not not still in the spotlight.
He doesn't want to put the rest of us to shame, and we thank you for that.
I do thank you for that. Well, as for me, look, I'm here. I'm here. But if you really want to just run into me, just find me here Thursday mornings with Martin and Das Wolfen, because I'm cool like that. And and then on Fridays on TGIF, which, man, I was just yesterday, wasn't it? And of course, Saturday Morning Funtime, which I am in the process of wrapping up, but not before I say thank you to our Muslim uncle, Kingsport Cow, Zach's, Cam's Crash Courses, Patrick Jordan, Andy Morrow, the Peter Venkman fan site, Keely Chow, Sucks Bulletin, Lord Toth, Slasher Fred, Fletcher Williams, he sucks at games channel, Anima Confusa, and of course, the Lady Penny.
You missed the Peter Venkman fan site.
I thought I mentioned the Peter Venkman fan site. You know what? I'm sorry, Peter Venkman fan site. I will, in the future, endeavor to mention the Peter Venkman fan site more often. Thus, on behalf of the Peter Venkman fan site and myself and everyone here, have a good Saturday.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Ma, I'm doing a show! Ma, I'm doing a show!